Hey guys, this is the fender off my 1953 Ford F100, and as you can see, the front fender's got a little bit of cancer. Follow along while we start welding in some new steel and see if we can make this thing look as close to new as possible. We should be able to start working on the rust repairs. Since this is able to be removed from the fender and get it on the welding bench here, I think that's probably a good place to start. I've given this a quick wipe through the sandblaster cabinet to take the worst of the surface rust off it, but I would like to get it cleaned up just a little bit more before we start trying to do any kind of repair, so at least we know what we've got. Obviously, we've got some issues here all the way along. We've got a lip that's in rough shape. A little bit of corrosion in this corner here, but that's another piece. Otherwise, this strip of metal is not in too bad a shape, which is a good thing. Let me throw this back in the sandblaster, get it cleaned up a little more. As you can see, there's still a bunch of crustiness here. And I'll bring you back and we can start to draw a little sketch on here to come up with a plan. Well guys, it's not perfect, but it is definitely a step in the right direction. Most of the crustiness here we're going to be cutting off anyway, so not a big deal. I folded out a couple of loose little fingers, and we almost kind of sort of have gives us a point to come off of here to work our way around. I got some ideas. It's a new technique I haven't used before, using some tape. Scott from Cold War Motors uses tape to make his templates all the time, so we'll give that a try. But that is going to be for tomorrow evening. It's getting a little late here now, so I think I'm going to shut it down, and we'll come back and continue on with this little task tomorrow. I've got the inner shell clipped back in place here, just kind of held with some vice grips. We can see a bunch of the things that we're going to have to replace or going to have to repair. Obviously, that corner is in need of some repair. Now you can see that we've got the rust is kind of pitted back into this piece a little bit. Given this is relatively flat, I think I'm going to try and come back something like that. This piece here, looking at my other fender, is basically supposed to, this is rusted out here. This piece underneath wraps around all the way and ties into this bottom lip, and I think that I'm going to try and find and drill out all those spot welds, get that pulled out of there so that we can either build a new piece, because it is just flat metal, or weld in some patches. But the rest of this is not the prettiest in the world. There's still some pitting and whatnot on there, but I think with some cleanup, it's probably going to be all right. Once we get this inner piece recreated with solid metal, I think we'll come back and work on the outer shell. Let me get this back on the bench and we'll start looking at what we got to do to make a template. We've got the inner lip here on the bench. I'm going to try a new technique that I've never really used before, that I learned from Scott at Cold War Motors, and that is that we take tape and kind of recreate what we've got to build out of masking tape. And then we take that tape and lay it on the flat metal, and it kind of gives us a template. And also shows us where we need to shrink or stretch. I'm almost tempted to do this in two sections. We'll try and do it in one and see how it turns out, but doing it in two sections might make it a little bit easier, kind of come to halfway around this radius. The only problem, of course, is I'm liable to end up with a seam that might be a bit of a challenge in the middle of that radius, and that wouldn't necessarily be good. And the idea here, I think, at least, is to put several layers of tape on, so it gives this a little bit of a body. and allows it to conform to what was originally there. Now this is sticking out way too far. Well, let me keep working on this. Get a few more layers on here just so that we've got, some stiffness to the tape, and make sure that it follows the contour that we need to have on this. And I'll bring you back when I'm ready to try and recreate this in a piece of steel. Here's our taped piece kind of laid in place. And we might need to do a little bit of tweaking and adjusting on that once we get it in there, but that'll get us in the ballpark anyways. Let me grab some steel and we'll start getting ready to lay this out. Here's our piece of steel that we're going to end up using. So before we peel the tape off here, I think we need to kind of mark what we're trying to do. We've got our bend. We've got our other bend. Now we're to the point where we don't have anything in behind. Mark our endpoints. Peel this off of here. And we'll snip this off at the end. Okay, I'm going to try and cut that out with some snips as a first pass. We might have to break out an angle grinder with a cutoff wheel if the snips aren't going to make a good job of it. Let me bring you back once we get the piece cut out and we can start trying to figure out what we're going to do for those bends. Of course, the part curled the wrong way when we were going around the corners, but it's steel, so we can just flex it. That's interesting. It appears our tape template lied to us. That's all right. I think we can make it work. I probably just need to do a little bit of shrinking in this area, and that should bring things around for us. I think we're going to be able to make that work. I think what I'm going to end up doing here is continuing this line that I've kind of started roughing in here. That's the top bend down the length of this piece so that it's, approximately even back from this edge. Then we'll be able to use the shrinker to pull this around the corner if we need to. But that'll give us a good start for our bend line. Let me take this apart, finish laying this out, and I'll bring you guys back when we're ready to proceed to the next step. So we've got a step bend that we need to make down, and then we need to bend it back up again. I've got the vise set up here. Basically, I think we're just going to try and use this corner as an anvil, and we'll see how well it shapes. A shaky welding table is not necessarily the most ideal surface to be tapping on, but we'll give it a try because it's a good place to film. Sacrifices I make for you guys. Yeah, that's just bouncing. Well, we have another tool we can try. These are hand seaming pliers that I have specifically for working on airplanes, but they're designed for bending flanges. On aluminum, I don't see why they won't do it on some steel too. You know what? I'm going to put on some gloves. Slow down the slice a little bit if something slips. That looks pretty close. This is the shrinker, and when you pull the handle down, the heads come together and it pulls a little pucker into the sheet metal. I don't know how we're going to get this braced here though. Okay, let's give this a try. Let's see if we can get it to shrink a little bit. And you can see there's some ripples in here. Those can be tapped flat, not a big deal. Actually, the jaw of the shrinker might be a good spot to try and bend that. Well, let's try it and see. This needs just a little bit of dolly work, I think. I got a good dolly for that. Clamp that in the vise and tap that so that it follows the radius a little better. Obviously, we're going to have to do some shrinking on this surface, or might even be stretching once we get the rest of the bend in. But kind of looks like it's going to work for us. Now we need to start bending this flange out. And at this end here, the flange kind of tapers down a little bit. You can see there, it's less pronounced. That looks like it fits in there fairly decent up to about here, and then we start to have issues going around the corner. Something tells me we're going to have to play with the shrinker and stretcher, etc., to get this to start to come around. I'm thinking some more shrinking on this side, and that'll pull the whole piece around the corner. Let's give that a try. Looks to me like we need a whole bunch more shrinking along here. Yep, shrink this bunch, shrink this a little more, and it should suck it in around the corner. Let me go at that a little bit, and I'll bring you guys back when I've got some more progress made. There we go. It's still a little rough, and this is going to need some stretching. I did a bunch of shrinking to try and pull the piece around the corner, but as you can see, it is angled down and it basically should be parallel to this surface here, but with the, you know, 1/4 inch or so, 3/8 of an inch jog in it. Obviously, there's some more TLC that it's going to need once it's nailed in, but I think we're just about to the point where we can look at permanently attaching it. The underside, we're a little bit of a gap here. Might try and pull that in a little tighter with some vice grips, just so that we can kind of get things better aligned, but that is definitely better than rusty metal. And we can tweak that flange a little bit with the stretcher in here, and then, you know, just bending on the flange once we've got a bigger piece of sheet metal to hang on to. I think our next step is going to be tacking it in place. I'm going to fire up the welder and we'll just put a few tack welds on it, get it so that it's kind of sort of attached. We'll try it on the fender over there and see how it fits. I'm not going to record the tack welding. I don't want to damage my camera, but I'll bring you back when I've got this thing fit in the fender, and we'll see what it looks like. Well, that certainly fits better than I thought it was going to. This all looks pretty good here. Obviously, there's an extra layer of metal in there still. And this doesn't even look too bad. Maybe needs a little bit like that. This looks like it needs to come up a little bit. Our spot welds line up fairly well with where they were up here on the top. Oh boy, that's come together. And you can see where my spot welds are relative to the rough line that I put on there. It actually looks pretty good. Yeah, this needs to go that way a little bit. This needs to come up a little bit. I like it. Let me make those tweaks and then we'll try it back in place here and see how it looks. I am very happy with the fit. Might need a little bit of tweaking when we go to put that the outer lip on, but for this base layer, I'm very happy with it, and I think it's time to weld it in. Now, obviously, I don't want to leave a lap weld here, although, you know, I guess I could just buzz that off and put a little bit of filler on it. Nobody'd ever be the wiser, but personally, I would rather do a better job than that. So I'm going to use Fitzy's cut and butt technique, but I'm not quite as adept at it as he is, of course, because he's been doing it for 40 plus years. But if you want to learn the details of how Fitzy's cut and butt works, I suggest going out to Fitzy's Fabrications on YouTube and look up his cut and butt technique. It is an absolutely fantastic way of doing a butt splice on multiple layers of sheet metal, similar to what we're doing here. I'm going to get this welded up, do the best job I can, and hopefully I don't embarrass myself, but I'm not going to record it. I'll bring you back when I get this welded and we're ready to try it back in place. Well guys, what do you think? I'm pretty happy with it. There's still a little bit more grinding to do, a little bit of cleanup here and a little bit down in the corner here, but the main repair here has turned out fantastic. Very happy with that. We've still got this little corner that we've got to clean up. We've got to drill this this tab that's part of this front brace off and get that fixed. We got some corrosion here we got to fix, but that's all kind of the next step. I wanted to get this done today and it has turned out awesome. If we can get the piece that wraps around from here to turn out that good, I'll be very happy with this repair. But I think that's going to be for another video. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Appreciate you taking the time to watch. If you got this far, can you give me one of those thumb up things? Give me a like. And if you want to see more content like this from Doug's Messy Garage, why don't you hit that subscribe button? It doesn't cost you a thing, and it helps greatly to build the channel. More subscribers equals more people getting a chance to watch my content. If you want to get notified when I post new content, you can ring that bell icon. There's some links for some merch below the video if you want to help me out in a little more direct way to rebuild this 53 Ford and work on a few other projects I got on the go. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next mess.